Iowa's News Now Sports brings you black and gold glory. Your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks.
Coming out of State College a couple of weeks back, it was tough. So, you got two choices. I know we couldn't have done 3 weeks ago what we did today. I know that. The guys are growing, and that's what the season's all about. That's what the sport's all about. That's what life's all about. It's just, looking at your situation, what can you do to get better? What can you do to give yourself a chance to be competitive? And credit goes to our guys. They just, good group.
Good group, great win, and the road to the Big Ten West now runs through Iowa City. Welcome to our special Monday edition of Eye on the Hawks, recapping Wisconsin, along with a lot of other stuff, a 15-6 win, quintessential Hawkeye victory to bring back the Heartland Trophy to Iowa City. Mitch Vick, Owen Sebring, Mike Howell, lots to get to here, including a recap of a historic day in Iowa City yesterday at Kinnick Stadium, 55,000 strong. Watching Bluter's Bunch. What a moment that was. So we'll talk about that as well. Of course, here's all the ways you can follow Eye on the Hawks if you're trying to find those still as we get to the halfway point, past the halfway point of the season. Eye on the Hawks on Twitter, the Iowa's News Now YouTube channel and Instagram channels are where we've got posts too. Of course, if you're watching this live stream, this is where you get all the highlights and the videos of the post game and everything like that. And you can find the podcast, the audio version, wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's start with just a recap of what we saw Saturday in Camp Randall, courtesy of Owen Sebring, who is having a highlight shooting season for the ages. Just really doing great stuff. Started with that offense right away, or this is, we'll go with this one too, because, why not show the 82-yard touchdown immediately? Leshon Williams, when you start forgetting about him, all of a sudden he pops back up again. 147 yards, I believe, or 174 on the ground. Was it one of those?
Pretty incredible. He had, as you guys may have seen, longest play for an Iowa player on offense since 1997.
Longest run for...
Longest run.
I believe, and I just put it out there and I didn't re-look it back up, but I believe it was the longest play since Beathard to Smith in the 2015 title game.
Okay, yeah.
So this is how the game ends, raising the Heartland Trophy. Let's Tarantino it. Let's go back to the beginning where it started with a great day from Tory Taylor, 10 punts, 506 yards. Punting is winning. Have you heard? Luke Elkin, we can talk about him a little bit too. He's long snapping. I would be more shocked if he missed a snap than Tory with a bad punt right now. He's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Early fourth down attempt for Wisconsin there. Cooper with a great stop. And then, boy, when it rains, it pours injury-wise. Erick All going down. We're expecting news, if not today, tomorrow. It didn't look good. Kirk said as much. It's not good. But, of course, next man in, Iowa just had to keep going, and that's where you start to boogie. This kid, you saw him against Western Michigan just when you think like, oh, Caleb's out, Jazz is out. What are we going to do? Leshon's got your back, repping Chicago and having a game for the ages not too far north of the Windy City. What a huge play that was in a game of body blows. That was your haymaker. Brennan Locke comes in for an injured Tanner Mordecai, and surprise Locke made it out without being injured either. Why Black, big safety, big hit, big breakout game for him in Madison as well. This defense continuing to be the story. And as you got deeper into the game, another big hit from Aaron Graves, really coming into his own the last couple of weeks. Recovered by Jay Higgins, who just keeps filling up the stat sheet any way he can. What a borderline All-American campaign for him. Drew Stevens had a kick blocked last week, missed one as well. Really solidified himself with a couple big boots. And, the little flappy flap. Matt, the Wisconsin specialist, did that. Tory took offense to it. And then Sebastian Castro, happy birthday, 29. What a day for him. Made some money, maybe, as he looks to go to Sundays and break it down. Joe Evans told me, we're going to sing. And what a great moment that was. Logan Lee leading that as well. Just a big, big day. But, of course, I don't like to pat myself on the back a whole lot. I told you punting was going to be a big one on Saturday in Madison. Tory made darn sure it was. Really interesting comment from him in the post game after a career day for him, one that really had win the Ray Guy. How does he not win the Ray Guy, or at least be a midseason All-American? He was really tough on himself, it sounds like, early in the season. LeVar Woods kept up a lot of kindness. A little bit of emotion here from Tory after the game.
it's kind of strange, you know, the first 2 or 3 games of the season, I wasn't really hitting the balls I wanted to be hitting, but I really felt like I've kind of taken a big step probably the last 2 or 3 weeks and really started to hitting balls that I want. And I really got to thank like a lot of guys for that. You know, it's really guys just getting around me, and we've had a lot of vulnerable conversations in the specialist room because, you know, I wasn't performing to the best of my ability the first few weeks, and I really owe like Coach Woods a lot because he kind of just like helped me get out of that slump. And the one thing that I really love about Coach Woods is that he just lets us be who we are. And there was never one day where it's just like, you know, why are you effing doing that or why are you doing that? It was just like, you know what, man, like you're the best punter I know, like you're the best punter in the world. Just go out and do that. So yeah, I really I owe him a lot.
Wonderful thing about sports in 2023 is conversations and comments like that, where guys are, maybe it's not the best thing, I'm being a little superfluous there, but a wonderful thing about sports is the reminders that they're human beings, young men and women, doing their darndest with the brightest of spotlights. And listen, Tory gets the biggest cheers in the pregame. Yep. Again, I had to explain to my sister, why does the crowd cheer for Iowa's offense when they're punting on 4th down? It's because of this kid. Yep. And you get the feeling that maybe he holds himself to these ridiculously high expectations that we've kind of put. There are T-shirts, literally T-shirts, with his home country and continent, with the phrase punting is winning because of how good he is. And you hear him say, I felt like I wasn't living up to it. And nobody would say he wasn't living up to it. He continues to be a primary catalyst for this team. But to hear him be that vulnerable and talk about the vulnerability and talk about the fact that he's got the support of his coaches and his fellow specialists was just a really cool moment on a day that he'll remember forever. We'll talk about the defense and the big run from Boogie, but that was the Tory Taylor game as much as it was the Sebastian Castro game and the Leshon Williams game.
Yeah, you and I had a chance to sit down with Matt Weitzel recently, and he was telling us that LeVar Woods took an actual trip to Australia to see and meet Tory Taylor in person, which, like, I mean, dang. Talk about the recruiting trip of a lifetime if you're a head coach. Like, I'll take that trip any day. LeVar, let me take that one for you. But he's just been such a special part of this team ever since then, and so valuable for LeVar to take that trip, meet him in person. I'm sure that made Tory feel special to know that he was wanted so badly by Iowa that they'd fly, 20 hours over there to Australia to see him, and he's just become such a huge part of this team. I mean, when Caitlin Clark was introduced at Kinnick yesterday, I think that was the loudest I've heard since Tory Taylor. He's surpassed only by Caitlin in terms of the applause that he gets at Kinnick Stadium.
Where else are you going to get the lead on a college football podcast? Be the punter. You're not going to get that too many other places.
We're really becoming just a caricature of what an Iowa football podcast would be.
I don't know, looking back, I mean, you guys can tell me if Iowa fans have always loved the punters or embraced the punters so much. I mean, there's been some really good ones. Obviously, Reggie Roby is a legend at Iowa from back in the early 80s. Jason Baker spent a pretty good chunk of time in the NFL. He was very good, I know. But, I mean, is this something that Iowa fans have always, embraced the punter, or is it special to Tory?
I feel like there's been a little bit of an affinity for the punter. Going back, Ryan Donahue was
I remember me and my roommate would go early and watch him punt.
Ryan Donahue can drop by.
Ryan Donahue.
Ryan was in the league for a little bit. I think he was with Detroit. Yeah.
Him and David Bradley before him was good, but I don't think there's ever been like a cult following like there are now.
This has just been different, and I don't know if it's just the novelty, if you want to call it, of him coming in from Australia. Michael Sleep Dalton, I believe, is Australian as well, who was a transfer from ESU a couple years ago.
He is a weapon, though. I mean, without
he helped win that game.
Yeah, it's kind of wild just to think how many 10 punts, 506 yards punting, which is, I don't know how many times a team gets that many punting yards, but it's just an amazing display. And then I think 6 inside the 20. It's just wild.
And this is, I think, a large reason why so many people talk about LeVar Woods as a head coach of some team in the future, is that he has perfected this special teams unit so magnificently. I mean,
numbers.
He look, 50 yards.
We just talked about him, but then you see him printed, and it's ridiculous.
But I mean, the punt unit is just flawless. I mean, the snap, the whole, I mean, there's just nothing wrong with it. Kicking game, I mean, again. Stevens missed a couple last week, had one blocked, but he bounces back to hit a couple of 40-plus yarders this week. They're always, good. I mean, they've had some great kickers over the last few years. I mean, they just that special teams unit, as much as the defense does exactly what you want them to do, the special teams unit works to perfection. They are a finely tuned machine.
It's an overlooked aspect in college football. I don't know if any of you guys watched the Michigan State-Rutgers game. One of the big plays that swung that, because they were up like 2-3 touchdowns, was a fumbled punt snap, and then Rutgers scored a special teams touchdown, totally just swung that game. And if you get those errors, or on the opposite side, when you can return a kick for a touchdown or pin them 6 times inside the 20, especially when Iowa wasn't even really having that good a field position. Tory would just flip the field.
The field, that is such.
With the backup quarterback in most of the second half, it's a huge advantage.
Like I said, Luke Elkin, the long snapper, whether it's Jackson Subert from Williamsburg or Tyler Kluver, the polecat himself, I would legitimately be more surprised, right? Like if Tory shanks a punt, hey, it happens when you have that many great ones, you're bound to have one. If Luke Elkin had a bad snap right now, my jaw would be on the floor. He has been incredible. He earned that scholarship playing in Madison, about an hour 45 from his hometown. So I'm sure he had a lot of fans there. But boy, Luke Elkin, you talk about the weapon that a good punter can be, a long snapper who's just tried and true and doesn't have I have zero fear of him snapping over Tory's head. Granted, Tory's 6'3", too. Tory could go play linebacker somewhere if he wanted to.
His biceps are huge.
And boy, you talked about Jason Baker, a guy who made a heck of a living playing on Sundays and punting on Sundays. Tory very much setting himself up. Forget about the collegiate awards. He's got a pro career ahead of him if he wants it.
Too soon to make Casey Kreider comparisons for...
Casey Kreider. Shame on me for not bringing up Casey. I mean, they just...
Still with the Giants. I mean, the guy's still in the NFL.
He's been in the league for pushing a decade now. So, long snapping, also winning. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Better sleep means better morning. Start your morning waking up on a Restonic mattress. At Corcoran Furniture, we are Delaware County's largest Restonic mattress dealer. We have great prices on Ashley Furniture and the largest selection of Restonic mattresses, featuring the marvelous middle, giving you more support where you need it so you can sleep soundly. And it's made for you right here in Iowa. So if it's a crossword, coffee, or the morning news, let Corcoran Furniture help you start your morning off right. Visit Corcoran Furniture in Manchester or shop online at CorcoranFurnitureManchester.com.
And now back to long snapping. Well, I guess we've talked about long snapping quite a bit. Let's talk about the defense because, boy, Phil Parker, in case you haven't heard, knows how to coach up a defense. A day they'll talk about for years in Iowa City after that trip to Madison. Big hits, disciplined coverage, just everything you would want out of an Iowa-Wisconsin game, particularly if Iowa's on the winning side. Jay Higgins just setting it out there, and Seb Castro, I believe, as well. This was a day that Iowa came in knowing what they needed to do, feeling like they could do it, and a big reason, aside from the punting and long snapping and kicking, Iowa comes home a winner because of Phil Parker's unit.
Defensively, yes. Me personally, no. I had a couple plays I wanted back, obviously, but I mean the way Castro was playing. The way our communication was, the way the D-line handled the run game, I feel like the defense, we did a great job just staying in it, competing. And that's really all we try to do. That's what Iowa defense is about, just keep fighting to the end of the game.
I think it was early on. I feel like this game was going to come down to physicality. And I feel like we came out there and we did that. We did just that. And I don't know if it was just me, but I could definitely feel it in the air. I just felt like we were more dominant today.
We want the game in our hands, and I mean, if you ask anybody defensively, we feel most confident when it's up to us to win the game.
And more often than not, it's up to the defense to win that game. So you love to hear that attitude. Boy, you heard it from both Seb and Jay. They just seemed to have. Jay was answering the question of if he felt like this was the best day for the defense so far in 2023. Of course, Jay is going to be self-critical and say he left a few plays out there after he has the day that he has, including a fumble recovery right there after the Graves hit. But yeah, boy, it felt like this was a defense that came out confident, knocked Tanner Mordecai out of the game. Braylon Allen was bruised and he was a little hurt, I think, coming into the game, maybe a little banged up. But boy, credit to Braylon Allen for finishing that game. But this did feel like, against a big test in an environment like that, yeah, this felt like the this felt like the best performance of the year.
Even though Braylon Allen did go over 3,000 career yards in that game, which, I mean, again, another big Wisconsin running back performance against an Iowa team, joining the likes of Ron Dane. But it still went just 87 yards net for Braylon Allen on Saturday. I mean, for them to hold Allen to a guy like that under 100 yards is pretty impressive.
And he took some hits, too.
Yeah,
he
big
took
time.
some hits.
He delivered
He
some
went out for an
hits
injury.
as well,
He
but-
did, boy, yeah.
He went out for an injury for a little bit, for a drive, Braylon.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw, I saw a report this morning, Mordecai broke a hand in his throwing
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
bone, and he's out for like, they said indefinitely for now.
It's
so.
it's sometimes overlooked, I think, just how severe an injury can be of just banging your head on or your hand on a helmet. Like, especially if you're throwing as hard as probably Tanner Mordecai throws. Look at his stats from his time down south. I mean, that dude put some speed on the ball, and yeah, just he literally, it was by his side, and you could see on the broadcast him saying, "I can't throw."
Yeah, I was going to ask Owen if you saw that on the sideline.
No, it took me a minute to even figure out that he wasn't in the game, because I think it was late in this second quarter, right?
It was after the Jay Higgins hit on the sideline. He went for a play. It was a pass play, and you could tell
He scrambled,
midway
that's
through,
right, yeah.
he's like,
So it was just
He
like the last couple plays in the second quarter, I think,
Yep.
that Locke, is it Locke? It's
Yeah,
Locke.
Braylon Locke.
That he came in, and I was kind of like, why isn't Mordecai in there? And I asked the people around me, and nobody really knew, because nobody could see that he left the game.
it was pretty
wasn't very
seamless when he
obvious.
got out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mouth over, I can't throw.
So somebody just theorized oh, maybe, they just don't want to risk an injury. So they weren't going to push it on this drive down the field late in the first half. So they're just putting it in Locke. But yeah, so then they came back out. Locke's still the quarterback in the second half. And I don't think anybody down there on the sideline shooting the game really knew what happened to Mordecai.
Yeah, it was tough. I did see some post from somebody, I don't know if they saw it on TV or if they were maybe overly speculating or what. They said that you could see as he was going to the locker room, his hand was already starting to swell, if they just could see the puffiness or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That stinks. Boy, Tanner Mordecai's a fun player to watch, so you hope he's good. But like I said, Locke kind of reminded me of, not the same player, but just the impact that Rocco Beck had against Iowa earlier this year. Just you see that kid make a few throws. It had a scramble that dude needs to learn how to slide a little bit, especially against a defense like Iowa's playing the way they did Saturday. But boy, he looks good. One of those guys that you see oh, he's good, and now we got to worry about him for the next 3 years every time Iowa faces up against Wisconsin. But you heard from Seb Castro, you saw Seb Castro. What a day for number 29. The birthday boy turned 23 on Saturday with the tackles. Guy wraps up like nobody's business. Had the interception to seal things there. A selfless move that Owen Sebring inquired about after the game.
Your interception probably would have been 6 points if you would have kept going with it. Was it hard to lay down for that one?
What do you think? It wasn't that hard, to be honest. The win, I can't ask for more. On the birthday, I can't ask. I think I had a pretty good day today, so I think I had enough, But the thought did come to my mind, but I wasn't gonna do it.
It's fun because I know he's behind me, and I don't know where he's at, but I just see a flash, a white jersey flash, and I know he's coming down to do bad things to whoever has the ball.
And as a great internet philosopher once said, it's fun to do bad things. Sebastian Castro, again, the thing that sticks out to me more, I believe Phil Parker talked about him like this, and I think Kirk's talked about it as well, that he came in as a freshman and he's always been this fast and quick to the ball or flying around. He just hasn't always had direction.
Yeah.
And so he was kind of Luis Mendoza from D2 the Mighty Ducks. He's fast as heck, but doesn't always know how to stop. Didn't have the right direction. Boy, he has just turned into a really, really special player that, because he plays on a defense with Cooper DeJean and Jay Higgins and all these other great players. Y.A. Black, again, had an awesome game up front. And Nick Jackson coming in from Virginia. But more and more, really, since that bowl game against Kentucky in the Music City Bowl, Seb Castro just more and more. He leads the team in interceptions now.
Yeah,
Sebastian
that's true.
Castro. And he's probably right up there for tackles for loss. I mean, he wraps up a leg and he does not let go.
There's a lot of games where he, much like Jay Higgins, is not necessarily a super standout player out there maybe where he's going to have like a lot of like vicious hits or some sacks or something, but it's just like the numbers just keep piling up for guys like that where they're in on every play, they're close to the ball, they're doing something to make a difference out there. And Saturday was just the game where Seb Castro really stood out that like, oh wow, this guy like really can do some things out there.
He runs past Locke right before YA's safety, but he kind of blocks off that angle for Locke to not be able to get away, and then of course just gets flattened. I mean, but that was a little of the maybe the old Sebastian, just like, let's just run as fast as we can. I don't know, but he set up that safety for sure.
Just a final thought on the defense. I mean, it's been 2 weeks now where they have made life miserable for these quarterbacks. I mean, Hudson Card last week and both of Wisconsin's quarterbacks this week. I mean, they have had a very unpleasant time in their own backfield. I mean, gosh, this front seven for Iowa is really making an incredible impact on these games.
That's where we had some concerns early on with the 3 sacks in the first 4 or 5 games, but ever since, the past 2 weeks, it's been a total 180.
Yeah. I can't remember the number off the top of my head because it was, even without the sacks, and we talked about this too, of just the pressure was there. I mean, they were hurrying the quarterback or impacting however they could, and they brought up the number on the broadcast.
That's what
I can't remember what they were like.
They said third in the
second
country,
or third in the nation.
FBS, I mean. Third in FBS and QB hits, I think, or QB hurries, one of those
Something
two.
like that. I mean, you don't have to have sacks to
them.
be influencing the passing game and making an impact that way. And that was, the floodgates will open sooner or later, and we've seen that happen a few times now. But don't for a second think that front seven's not doing something to disrupt the passing game. We've seen it time and again now. Hudson Card, again, credit to him for finishing that game a couple weeks ago with Purdue, and then again knocking Tanner Mordecai out of this one. That front seven is swarming, pun intended, to get to the quarterback. And
once Mordecai went out, I think they brought more pressure. I know Seb came a few times, and Cooper came. Well, I guess that was early on in the game when he stuffed that 4th down run. That was kind of like a jumbo
that
package.
set the tone.
So
I mean, that was a big play early for Wisconsin to decide we're going to draw a line in the sand, and for Iowa to respond the way they did. Let's talk about the offense, though, because despite what the internet says, Iowa does have a semblance of an offense. And if you go into Madison and run for 200 yards, you're probably doing something right. Boogie Williams dancing all the way to a big day and helping Iowa in the midst of a sea of body blows, again, with that haymaker, the 82-yarder. Talked about Brian Ferentz coming to the running back room, maybe to the O-line as well, and setting a bit of a challenge in the not-too-distant past.
Before this game, Brian had sat down with us. He felt like we left a lot of yards out there on the field, just us being too fast to the handoff. Basically, we getting the ball a little bit too deep into the lineman, so we missing a couple cuts, seeing it from front to back. So today our main goal was just to really be patient, and as we be patient, because we got to let the guys up front work. And as I was being patient today, as you can see, they was working, they was making holes, and my job just to run through them. So yeah. Oh, man, they doing a hell of a job, man. Every week I feel like they getting better. As you can see, them boys work hard. Today was one of a big challenge for them. They lived up to the challenge, and I feel like they imposed their will.
It was so on that 82-yarder, and we've got the video of it. We'll show again because why not watch a play like that again? That little stutter step he has in the backfield, Leshon kind of credited that as what he's not supposed to be doing. Of no, I'm supposed to take the handoff and hit the hole. It's man, without that, you don't set up that right side of the line. Hayden Large had an awesome block on that play too, and that springs him free. And then the stiff arm, that's a special run. And listen, we've heard the chants, the dialogue has been all over the place for a couple of years now. Brian Ferentz was right. Whatever he said, talking about maybe taking the handoffs a little too close to the line, not giving an opportunity for blocks to set up. Whatever they did in Madison, it doesn't happen a lot to walk in there to Camp Randall and run for 200 yards. Again, Leshon with 174 on the ground. Caleb Johnson, 17 carries, 35, but boy, he had a couple runs that were real nice, and he was real close. Leshon had one where he just tripped over Deacon's leg on a little read there, and if he doesn't trip there, you could already see the block setting up. Caleb had another one, too, that there was maybe an opportunity. Seth Anderson, guy likes sweeps. Didn't get to run them a lot at Charleston Southern. Wants to run them more, but you saw there, he's got an affinity for them. Yep. He can find the space, and that can be a play, especially as the passing game continues to struggle a little bit. But just an awesome play there, and boy, that's another one of those games that really, or one of those performances that really seems to show you the maturation, the progress of the offensive line and George Barnett's unit there. And that's another one of those that as you get into these last 5 games and you know you don't have Erick All, and we'll talk about him a little bit, you don't have Luke Lachey. They said on the broadcast he's going to try to come back for the bowl game. We talked about that last week as well, so that'd be awesome to get him back for any sort of game. And, of course, just waiting to get the passing game going somehow. If you can have a performance like that against a defense like that, that can build a lot of confidence as you come into the home stretch.
I think it was the Western Michigan game where so many guys had carries, and they were talking about this being RBU, and they've been banged up so much this season that it's been hard to really get a grasp of this team and their running game at its full potential, because it seems like, I don't know if there's been a game where if you count the top 3 backs as Caleb, Leshon, and Jazz, I don't think there's been any one game where all 3 of those guys have been active or healthy. I mean, it seans like there's always
aside
somebody.
from Utah State.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Jazz got a couple plays, didn't he? But didn't get
I don't know if he had a touch, but yeah, he went out on a wheel at one point and maybe had a couple other snaps. But
boy, I mean, yeah, these last couple weeks, I mean, this is just a look at what this team can do to you when the running backs are healthy, and they're dangerous with I mean, as much as the passing game is going to struggle, that running game is going to make up for it in a lot of ways.
It's the only part of the team where you really have major questions moving forward. We were talking earlier about, looking at the remaining schedule and wins, losses going on, and if this offense, this passing offense could evolve a little bit, it's going to be hard to do without Erick All, without Luke Lachey. I mean, Cade McNamara obviously out, like top 3 arguably. If you take out the running backs, players on the offense are out. So it's going to be tough to get consistent yards. You saw it in the game. They start off 3 for 4 on 3rd downs. They end up only converting 4 times, and the 4th time was that touchdown. Mm-hmm. And they were like 4 for 17 on 3rd downs. When they started off so well, I don't know if it has anything to do with the scripted plays. They start with 15 scripted plays or whatever. But then they went 6 drives in a row with 3 and outs, and it's like, if you could sprinkle in some consistency without having a big, lull on the offensive side, this team, I think, would obviously benefit. But can they do that moving forward? There's about 5 games left to figure it out, but that's going to be one of the tough ones.
And I think in that span of 6 drives, and I might be mistaken, but you had the trip over Deacon's feet where, that could be a big play. It's so easy to sometimes think and again, Fox throws the graphic up and then that becomes the screen grab for the week, kind of just like 6 drives, 3 yards, all that. But boy, you get one to break the right way and you're literally not tripping over a foot there. It changes everything. That's one play, but as we saw with an 82-yarder, one play can make all the difference. If that safety becomes a touchdown, the score looks a little different, even though I think the safety locked it up just as much as a touchdown would have. Just especially with the Iowa narrative of just what the offense has or has not done, then you get a stretch like that where it's just another chapter in it. But, of course, another chapter of Iowa's 2023 season is injuries. Erick All, we don't know, but we probably kind of know, might not be seeing him again this season. Just a really, really brutal injury. Just so tough to see on top of everything else we've seen with Erick and Cade. And, again, Kirk explaining just the situation after the game and Deacon explaining that Erick All continues to be Erick All even in a situation like that.
Yeah, he's injured, so it's not good, and we'll know early next week. But it's tough, and it's like everybody's been hurt this year. It's just really tough for the individual. So, wish I had good news. I don't have bad news yet, but we'll know that Monday or Tuesday.
My heart goes out to Erick. I talked to him on the sideline. He's always in good spirits. He's cracking jokes. I don't know how a man like that cracked the jokes at that time, but just next man up. Steve Stylianos did a great job. So did Scooz.
And Johnny Pascuzzi, first career catch, I believe, for 1 yard exactly. But here's the play again. We'll keep it in that speed. We won't speed it up because that was just so tough. And the look on his face here and as he's getting carted off, just, again, a guy who's come in first year in the program, and it's been so fun to get to talk to him mostly every week as much as we can. A lot of times it's on Zoom. But just such an insightful young man on top of just being a wonderful football player. Yeah, and that just breaks your heart. But then you see him on crutches afterwards smiling. So love to see that. Hayden Large, man, what does his role become? He's almost too good of a fullback now. You don't move him in. You heard next man in. And so maybe that's a possibility. But, boy, that was the highlight at least of a tough day for Erick All. Seeing him smiling, crutching himself off. You hate to see that scenario, but for him to to hear that he was still like that on the sideline with Deke and everybody trying to keep morale up, keep his own morale up, I'm sure that's all you can ask for. But yeah, certainly next man in. Just stinks.
All of us that have talked to Erick All have just had the best things to say about him. He just seems like the most positive guy, the most introspective, philosophical guy in the post-game press conferences, really has interesting and insightful input about the game and what he sees out there. And that just does fit his character, what we saw. Because after the game, I mean, you're used to, even in a win, when a guy gets injured, you usually don't see any smiles on them walking off. But he was still just happy, enjoying the team win out there, talking with his buddies. Even for him to give a thumbs up as he's getting carted off at a road game, much less where, he doesn't have to. He could have just, been looking down, had a towel over his head. But he has the presence of mind to just give a little thumbs up to the crowd, even though he probably knew that it was not a thumbs up type of situation. He's a good dude, and boy, I hate just seeing that for him.
Yeah, on the broadcast, Owen, I don't know if you caught this, they showed Cade when that injury happened, and just the look on his face made it somehow worse, just because, those two are super close, come from Michigan, and they're buds, and they both have knee injuries. It's so devastating. And talking about how positive he is as a person when we hear him talk, Leshon's the same way. Do you remember that soundbite when he's like,
Smiling's my favorite.
Yeah, Smiling's my favorite.
He's butt of the elf.
Why does this have to happen? I hope it never happens to anyone, but these two kids are like a couple of the, the least most positive ones on the team. It's really tough to see.
True. And I have this input. You can tell me what you guys think. I think that this Erick All injury is the one that hurts the Iowa offense the most of anybody so far. And the reason I say that is because, Leshon went down, which sucks, but we kind of knew, all right, they've got Erick All there, and Erick All's a pretty good tight end. Now that Erick All goes down, I don't have that same level of confidence in the rest of the tight end room right now. I mean, I'd love to see something out of Stilianos. Stilianos is a great kid. I really like him. Would love to see it, but have not seen anything out of him so far. Pascuzzi, I don't know. Ostrenga, he was out this week. I don't know. Maybe he could be the guy, but this, I think, is where it really hurts. And Cade, when he went down, again, as much as it stinks, he had not been putting up incredible numbers, and I didn't think it was going to be a huge drop-off from Cade to Deacon. And so I was like, well, this team gets by on its defense anyway, so, this isn't going to hurt the team, an incredible amount going from Cade to Deacon. But Erick All going down, that's going to have a significant impact going
because
forward.
He's essentially become, especially against Purdue, a wide receiver threat. They split him out quite a bit.
Deacon's favorite target.
And
94% of catches against Purdue were to Erick All.
I mean, the first two catches were to him, I believe. I know Nico had one. I can't remember if it was the third.
Great catch down the middle on, I think it was
great
the third
throw.
down.
The first one was.
Great. Hey, listen. So that brings us to a viewer, listener, consumer question sent in by wants to remain anonymous for the sake of the internet, I suppose.
His name.
But
Is it Brock Hewitt?
an old friend, no. Is Deacon a better fit for this offense with the lack of consistent pass catchers and playmakers than Cade, since he Deacon, can throw it downfield a time or two and maybe keep the defense a little more honest and still be able to have the running attack do what he can? I kind of get that, and I've kind of thought about that too. Listen, Iowa's not going to be a 30-pass-a-game team the rest of the way, more than likely, unless they get down and have to in a close game. You could argue they won't be a 20-pass-a-game play or 20-pass attempt a game team. But the fact that Deacon probably has the stronger arm compared to Cade, that maybe you do have an opportunity to go deep to Seth or go whoever, bring somebody out of the backfield as well. Do you think, and I think it's more, maybe it's not a question, more of a discussion of, does Deacon's potential threat of that help in this scenario more than, Cade can throw a deep ball. We saw the first play of the season go to Seth, first pass of the season. Does Deacon help that situation at all? We're going to run it a bunch, but we also have a dude who can go over the top.
I think in theory it makes sense, but you have to complete one of them. One of them first. I thought Vines had a step on his guy, that deep throw, they did throw it. A little overthrown, but if it might have been a jump ball if he put it on target, so who knows. But again, you have to hit them.
Yeah.
I wonder if teams just start, 9-10 guys in the box going forward until they actually do that. And then once they do it, like you said, Mitch, before we were talking before the game, then you, whatever opposing coach looks like a fool. Yeah. But it would be nice to see, but I don't see it. I would love to see it in the next few games.
Yeah, I could agree with that statement once Deacon Hill becomes fully comfortable in this offense. I mean, if you get the game against Purdue version of Deacon Hill, that's not great. I mean, just the amount of overthrows. It's like, that's great that he has a good arm, but like hit some receivers and then we'll talk. So I can kind of see what he's saying, but they are saying, I don't want to assume male or female, but I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't disagree, I guess, either.
I got another question to you guys I just came up with because I got the receiving stats for the year. Erick All was our leading receiver, 21 catches, 299 yards. Mm-hmm. Luke Leshon is still second, 131 yards. Are they going to end the season as the top two receivers? Nico has 83 yards. So he would have to get, if he doubles that through 7 games, he doesn't reach Erick All's number.
He's not 100 yards within Erick All if he doubles it.
I have to think they're going to have a couple big plays in the passing game as Deacon gets more settled in and guys can. I mean, it might not be an egregious amount, but we talked in the preseason, or maybe it was one of the first couple games of Kevontae Martin-Manley, and I believe it was 2014, had like 330 yards receiving. He was the leading receiver for Iowa. 300 it's going to be a lot like Sam Brownlee in 2004, running for 220 some and being the leading rusher, because I think losing your top 2 tight ends for Iowa in 2023 is a lot like losing your top 5 running backs in 2004.
Yeah.
Of just like you're just gonna have to get by with what you got. And listen, Nico has shown he can be a guy and make plays. Seth has shown that. Deontay has had opportunities as well. Listen, there's guys that are going to catch the ball. The numbers might not be outrageous, but I also saw you talked about Erick All smiling after that game in a really downtrodden situation. You see Seth Anderson and those receivers back there too. They're looking pretty happy too. I think this team is very much bought into the words that Kirk talks about of just, hey, we're just trying to win, and guys are going to do whatever they have to within their. I don't know if they consider they're wide receivers, but they're split ends. They're flankers now. They're not the receivers, so to speak. They're just out. They're out there doing what they have to in that position on the field to help this team collectively win.
I personally, I don't think anybody's going to catch Erick All's yardage. I have a really hard time seeing that happen. I think that we will see whoever does step in as tight end 1. I don't know who that is, whether it's Ostrenga, whether it's Pascuzzi, whether, we've talked about if they potentially might move Hayden Large back to tight end. We'll ask Kirk about that maybe tomorrow. But whoever it is, I think will get, a good amount of touches, will get a good amount of targets that they're going to, get maybe a couple hundred yards out there. And maybe they'll involve the running backs a little bit more in the pass game right now, give Caleb and Leshon some catch opportunities.
I wonder if this moves them to less 2 tight end sets and more 3 receiver sets.
Yeah.
They like to go shotgun with Deacon. They've shown that. And I think maybe, I don't know if he's more comfortable in that, but I mean, gives them time to see the field, and if you're going to get more receivers out there, it feels like it might work. This is a wild note, though, as we talk about injuries and figuring stuff out. At some point, and for various stretches this season, I put this out on Saturday, Iowa has missed these players, whether it was to injury or suspension. Cade McNamara, Caleb Johnson, Jazz Patterson, Luke Leshon, Erick All, Addison Ostrenga, Nick DeYoung, Noah Shannon, Jamari Harris. If you tell people in early August that for various stretches, all of those guys are going to be out, but post-Wisconsin, you're going to be 6-1 and controlling your destiny in the West. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
For you guys who have followed Iowa for a lot longer than I have, and I'd be curious to hear if any listeners, viewers want to weigh in any of the comments, do you have any recollection of an Iowa season like this where there were not even just this amount of injuries, but this amount of significant injuries? Has there been a season like this?
It's 04.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I think that's why.
Champs do like that.
Yeah.
It was the running backs. I don't know if anyone.
It was running back. I mean, it was Sam Brownlee, the pride of Emmitsburg, who literally had like 229 yards rushing for the entire season, and that led the team.
Yeah.
Because it was the Drew Tate show, throwing to Clinton Solomon and Ed Hinkle. Scott Chandler was on that 04 team, right? A lot of dudes who are around here now. Both Chandler and Eddie Hinkle still repping 319 and coaching area teams. That's it. I think it immediately comes to mind of just that season where just everyone got hurt.
Was it all running backs this year? Were there other positions too?
That year?
I believe it was. I mean, there's probably other injuries. None come to mind, but I know all the top 4 running backs were out.
Wow.
I think, was Marcus Schnorr the starter that year?
Another local coach?
I'm probably forgetting. I mean, when you lose 5 running backs, you forget who was the starter in 04. My point is that they've weathered a lot of storms and continue to weather storms, and it's going to keep raining a little bit in terms of who is going to stay out. But, win and survive and advance and get ready for Minnesota. Obviously, we'll talk a lot more about that on Wednesday, but we've got basketball to talk about right after this.
Bauman's has been selling quality clothing for over 100 years. We carry a wide selection of men's and women's clothing. We recently expanded to offer a great selection of shoes and accessories. We have the area's best selection of both big and tall and can outfit anyone from the farm to the office to a casual night on the town. Bauman's is a proud family-owned business, and we're excited to continue the tradition of quality clothing and unmatched customer service since 1909.
Visit us for all your clothing needs.
Welcome back to Who Was Iowa's starting running back in 2004. I think we've figured out it was a litany of guys going into that, but their roster, before we get to crossover at Kinnick, I know we really want to talk about that. Marcus Schnorr was a junior. Damian Sims, Albert Young were freshmen on that team, along with Tom Bush, fullback, Taylor Struby, Aaron Mickens was a fullback as well, Sam Brownlee, Champ Davis, Jamel Lewis, Kevin Sherlock, Marquise Simmons. So most of those guys were hurt or not playing in 2004, hence Sam Brownlee coming out, big number 48, holding it down as Iowa got a share of the Big Ten championship. Speaking of Big Ten championships, Iowa women's basketball on a day that they are going to talk about forever and ever at Kinnick Stadium, 55,000 plus. The record is gone in terms of attendance for a women's college basketball game in America. Just one of the coolest scenes you're ever going to see. Lisa Bluter and anybody else in this soundbite, Mike? You cut it a little later.
Yeah, it was Caitlin and Kate Martin.
There you go. Just, the triumvirate of a big part of the foundation in making an event like this possible, recapping a historic day at Kinnick Stadium.
You have an idea, and it could fall flat, if nobody shows up. But, man, Hawks fans showed up today. 55,000, breaking the record. Getting to play outside into Kinnick, it was like a dream. The most important thing for me to do is say thank you to every single person that came to this game today. They were a part of history, and I can't thank them enough. The wave, for us to be able to do the wave at the Children's Hospital, it was incredible. I'm really speechless about that. The money that we raised goes to the Children's Hospital, $250,000 today. I can't thank my administration enough. When I went to Beth, a week after the Final Four last year, and I said, I have this idea. Most people, a lot of administrators I know would say, you're crazy, and think of every reason why not to do it. And instead, she thought of every reason she should do it. And to me, that's pretty special.
Just the way people support women's athletics here in the state of Iowa, I think is pretty incredible as a whole, but obviously women's basketball especially. So I'm just lucky that, I get to play here and put on an Iowa jersey every day. And, they're not just coming here to be a part of, a historic moment. They're in the game. They're invested. They're cheering. They're loud. They know what's going on. And that's what only adds to the fun for all of us.
It's really fun that we get to be able to do something like this for a greater good. We got to, write off a $250,000 check for the Children's Hospital. Like, how cool is that? It's, whenever you can use your platform for something better, something bigger, something way more important than winning a basketball game. I just think that is so special, and I'm really grateful that I can just be a part of that.
Lisa Bluter in the circle, the famous circle, before yesterday's game, women's basketball shared this video. She told the team, quote, "When I started coaching and playing, I was lucky to play in front of 50 people, let alone 50,000. That's how far we've come. That's how far this game has come. That's how far you, her players, have taken it. Without what you did last year, this would not be happening."
Yeah, Lisa said there in the post-game press conference, you dream up something like this, and it's a possibility. Bringing out two of the Hawks, by the way, good for them. It's like there was no chance that was going to happen. As soon as Lisa, I think, saw the Pinterest and saw the Final Four 10, she's like, "Oh no, we can fill up Kinnick pretty completely if we do this thing out there." So she had the right idea, and it was a good call for them.
It's just, I can't fathom living in a moment like that you've helped create, that collective team there. Again, being down in Dallas and watching so many people drop what they were doing to drive 13 hours south. That and you saw it with the entrance into Kinnick and doing the hawk walk, going past the now Kinnick statue. That aerial shot that they had there, they had a similar one, the Hawk Vision team and the flight crew team, of that red carpet in Dallas walking into the American Airlines Center or American Airlines Arena, whatever it's called, and just that rock star transcendent feeling of this team is so much bigger than a game.
Yeah.
We said it in March and April, just they are changing the way the sport is consumed beyond nationally probably at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they are 55,000 people in mid-October filled a football stadium to watch an exhibition.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And keeping in mind, too, that like this was not, some headlines were mistaken in this where they were saying, or were at least underselling it, saying this is the most people at a college women's basketball game. Like, no, this is the most people at a women's basketball game, period. Professional, otherwise, ever.
On the same day that I think the WNBA set the record for like tickets sold at the gate for a finals game or something.
Really?
I mean, yesterday was a day that will stand in red letters in the history of women's athletics worldwide.
That's why I was telling everybody I could to get to this game, because you go to that game, you will remember this forever. I mean, I was
Like,
almost
shot like that, just a simple shot of a layup with blue sky. Like that is aesthetically
blows your
beautiful.
mind.
It was one of those like you'll never forget. I was in the stands as a fan, and just the entire time, you know, if I went to any basketball game, exhibition game, it's like I'm probably leaving at halftime because I don't,
Yeah.
I want to kind of see it because the basketball season's here. But this whole thing, it was so interesting. And even during the game, there were times when I think DePaul hit 3 threes before Iowa did, and we're like, I wonder if the wind is impacting. And everyone behind me were like, I wonder if the depth perception is impacting our shooters because they're really good and they were kind of missing to start the game. And just little things like that where it was just a unique experience.
I mean, just shooting that game was such a surreal experience, too, because it's like I've never had a basketball game where I've had to worry about shadows. Like, oh, this half of the court's in shadows, the other half is in light, and it's like throwing off the white balance out there. I mean, just like
That's
something
inside baseball, but I understand that struggle for sure. The sun setting, what do I do?
Yeah.
I loved seeing the back in black tunnel walk. That on the football side, you see everyone is just so stoic and just locked in, and the players here are like hugging each other and just like absolutely loving every set. It's one of the coolest things, like you guys said, that we'll ever see, whether you watched it on TV, in the crowd, or covering it. That is just a moment that, again, is history, whatever you want to say. They will, unless they start filling up Cowboy Stadium. They will never break that. It's incredible. I hope they break that record because it means more progress. But man,
great. Lisa made the comment about after the game when she was talking to the fans. They gave her the microphone on the court. And I mean, you could tell she was really getting choked up just seeing what she was able to bring to Kinnick Stadium yesterday. But she said like nobody could do this like the state of Iowa, and it really got me thinking. Literally, how many other states, colleges, places could fill a stadium with 55,000 people for a women's college basketball game? It's probably not 0 other places, but it's probably not 5 other places. I mean, South Carolina can maybe do it. UConn could probably do it.
LSU would.
Does their football stadium?
Yeah,
that's true.
would have a
LSU for
shot.
sure probably would. I don't know if UConn's football stadium holds 55,000 people regardless.
Now, Nebraska's women basketball isn't as good as Iowa's and these programs we're talking about, but they did fill 90,000 for volleyball, which is really cool.
So cool.
Different sport, but different
for
still
sure.
cool.
And I hope people can stop, and it's the minority doing this, of comparing the two. Just celebrate the fact that we're in a time where you can put 90,000 in a stadium for women's volleyball, 55,000 in a stadium for women's basketball.
Yeah.
What a friggin' awesome era to live in.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to compare the two, it's like Nebraska.
That's just Huskers, Iowa stuff.
It's
like,
true.
you know what I mean?
And Nebraska would not fill Memorial Stadium for a women's basketball game, and Iowa would not fill Kinnick for a college volleyball game. I mean, let's just get real on
Just
both sides.
celebrate what you're great at, no matter what it is.
UConn Stadium seats 40,000, so no, you can do it. Yeah. I'd do some.
They can still probably fill it if they put that basketball team out there. I bet they would.
Oh man,
But
it
was one of those days where I mean, we'll talk forever about how lucky I am to do this job and to have a front seat for so many incredible and cool sporting events, both in Iowa and a nationwide stage. Yesterday was one that it was a little hard for me to enjoy. I did enjoy it, but it was hard because I'm like, when you are the one that gets to tell these stories, I'm just like thinking the whole time, I want to tell this story well. and I get so worried about that and so caught up in the moment. Like, how am I going to shoot a stand-up well? Am I going to like get all the right information in there? Am I going to edit it well? I mean, it's so hard to capture everything perfectly because it's such a big moment. You want to try to show that to the viewers, how big the stage is and how big the moment is. And so I get a little stressed out about it. So I probably wasn't able to enjoy it to the full capacity that I'd like to, but still, I will always get to say that I was there on the sideline and saw it happen. And so, you know,
You did a good job. I watched the 9 last night, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
We also need to
10,
take
I can't remember which one
our hats off and tip our caps to the 36-hour stretch you had. So you, at 48 hours, shoot. You co-host Eastern Iowa OT on Friday night here at this desk.
After doing the morning show with Jan Jensen.
After doing the morning show. So 60 hours. We get it. You work a lot. So you make an appearance on the morning show Friday with Coach Jensen in there. You do high school football Friday night.
In the rain.
You wake up.
Torrential.
I'm in the middle of praising you. Just let me do it. I get it. There was
Keep going.
weather.
No, I'll finish.
You wake up and run a 5K Saturday morning. Hot Cider Hustle, I believe, 5K.
Yep, that's right. Huge. I mean, talk about a turnout.
Yeah,
Holy smokes. There's a lot of people there for that, man.
People in Cedar Rapids love their 5Ks. So after that, instead of resting up, you drive to Madison, cover a Heartland Trophy win for Iowa, drive back, butt of the elf sleep pattern of probably 40 minutes of sleep, wake up and go cover an incredible event at Kinnick State. I know you love this job and you talk about that. That's a lot, though. That's a ton of stuff, but it's one of those examples of it feels like work probably in moments, but I also imagine you pinch yourself a couple times at that. That's just
some applause.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. That's not public domain. That's from a specific event. That's a $9,000 applause.
I got back last night to my apartment about 11:30, and I was just like, I don't want to talk to anybody right now. I'm just ready to let my brain relax and put on some 30 Rock.
Amen.
There's a couple I will say that, like, I got an okay night's sleep on Saturday night. Usually I'm going to wake up and go to church on Sunday morning, but I was like, no, I need sleep more than anything right now. One aspect of the weekend that you forgot was that on Saturday night, I drove an extra hour because there's that part after Dubuque where you have to like veer to the right to go back to Cedar Rapids, or you go straight. I forgot about that part, and I got about probably 20 more minutes I would have been in Davenport, I think, and then I pulled up the maps. How far am I from the station? An hour and 15 minutes. I should be like 20 minutes away. And so I had to like get on.
That's why you get your sleep Friday night, so you're not delirious behind the wheel
I
on
was
Saturday.
so pissed at myself.
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
how could I do such a thing?
If that's the one hiccup of the weekend,
yeah, there's worse.
You might have skipped church
I'm hourly.
Sunday, but you seem blessed there, man. It's just so cool to see. Speaking of things that aren't necessarily blessed, let's recap our picks from the weekend. Just another wild Big Ten weekend. Everybody hit on Michigan. Boy, Indiana just rough. Ohio State really locked in and took care of business against Purdue. Rutgers, again.
We all missed on Rutgers.
But hey, credit, Michigan State changed quarterbacks, and they got to do their in.
What was the final of that Rutgers-Michigan State game?
27-24, I think. Rutgers came back and won.
Barely missed it.
Shame on me for putting faith in the Minutemen.
I told y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Owen, for that.
I felt good about it for a while. I'm like, all right, like, hey, Penn State's going to pack it in. They won't pile it on. They'll be nice. Nope, 63-0.
There should almost be a 30 for 30 about UMass football, because it's like they've been bad for as long as I can remember. It's incredible.
It's tough. Illinois.
Who saw that coming? Kaysen? I don't know.
Yeah, Kaysen. He's not here yet, but yep, that happened too. And then Mike,
I like being wrong in that last game.
Don't say you like being wrong. I
Let's
told
just
you.
say-
I was trying to talk you into being in Iowa's advantage, and you flipped the pick. But
I will say it's interesting that all
Still leading.
all three of us were correct on all of our picks for the first 6 weeks of the season. In terms of our preseason prediction picks of the schedule, I'm the first one to miss on a game because I thought Wisconsin would beat Iowa in the preseason, and so I'm the first one to have a blemish on the record.
So Mike leading the way so far with picks 20-19-2, Owen 18-21-2, and me who went 1-6 or something in the first week, 17-22.
Not bad considering.
Probably our best.
I'm a rallier.
All of us were 3-3 this week. That's like the best we've done, I think, as a unit.
Hey, that's I mean,
for 7 weeks.
We're still losing money. If we were betting these, we're not betting these, but yeah, we can do better. All right, so thank you for the patience. Waiting for this Monday edition of Eye on the Hawks. We covered a lot boy, what a fun weekend. Historic weekend, historic weekend. And now we turn to Minnesota. The battle for trophies just beginning. Floyd of Rosedale is settled in and has quite the residency in Iowa City, but going to have to get ready for the Golden Gophers coming up on Saturday, 2:30 kick on NBC.
Just one final thought before we start playing the outro music is that back in, I think it was February, they had that huge weekend in Hawkeye history where it was like the comeback against Michigan State. Iowa women did something. I forget what happened.
Was that Caitlin's winner
Was it
against
the Indiana game?
Was it? Yeah, I think it was that weekend, yeah. And then Iowa
Curtis still has footprints over him.
Iowa baseball beat number 1 LSU that weekend, and I feel like even the softball team won in a walk-off or something like that. But I feel like this weekend is one that Hawkeye fans are going to remember for a long time in terms of that win on Saturday at Wisconsin. First one at Wisconsin since, what did we say, 2015?
2015, yeah.
And the crossover. This is
Very
a weekend
similar to 2015 as well.
This is a Hawkeye weekend that is going to be remembered for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, not for that February had beating a top-ranked Indiana, not top-ranked, but top in the Big Ten. Indiana beating top-ranked LSU, but it still was a memorable weekend for, being a Hawkeye fan. Anytime you get a win in Madison, I think you're feeling happy.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens at Kinnick on Saturday. Again, we'll get everything. We'll talk to coach and players tomorrow and bring everything on Wednesday on our live edition of Eye on the Hawks. Of course, Twitter, Eye on the Hawks, Iowa's News Now on YouTube and Instagram. However you have been tuning in and listening and downloading and supporting, we thank you. We will talk the battle for Floyd of Rosedale coming up on Wednesday on Eye on the Hawks. For Mike and Owen, I'm Mitch. We'll see you then.